Okay, we are live and ready to go. Or wait, just 1 second. Let me make sure the. Okay, I believe we're ready to go.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I am Stephen Lee Johnson, and I would like to welcome you to the December 13th Downtown Design Review Committee meeting. Our purpose with this meeting is to review projects that involve design that will eventually come before the overall Downtown Commission. We as a committee listen carefully to what is being proposed. We often discuss impacts to downtown, general compliance with the downtown design guidelines, and our goal is to work collaboratively and encourage the best possible development in downtown. All committee members and staff today are participating virtually. We appreciate your patience as we work through committee meetings a bit differently these days. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website, and also linked on the committee page or on the city's YouTube channel. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone call in. For those of you that are out there today, we welcome you. I'm going to start with a roll call now to introduce all the committee members who are virtually participating. Let's see. Robin Rains.
Here.
Thanks, Robin. Brian Moffitt.
Here.
Okay, thank you. So there are 3 of us here today. We typically have 5. There's 3 commission members and 2 from outside the commission. Today we have 3. We have, I believe, 1 item on the agenda, and that is a continued review for the 4 Points Sheridan project at Woodfin and Central Avenue. One thing I'd additionally like to ask the committee members to raise their hand to speak, and I'll call upon you at that time. So I'm going to turn this over, I believe, to Sasha now, and we'll listen to today's agenda item.
Sure, thank you. I don't have a lot to add to what Stephen Lee said. This is the second meeting we have. We are going to be discussing this project, and from MHA Works, we have Peter Alvarez, Sid Jaggers, and Eric Howell who will be presenting to us. Just for members of the public to know that for this meeting, it's not required by the UDO. So developers come here voluntarily, and we don't require materials to be turned in ahead of time. So for this meeting, we actually don't have any materials to have ahead of time for people in the public, but do encourage people to watch the previous YouTube videos. So if you want information. So we may be meeting on this project one more time. I'm not sure. We'll find out. And we'll have 2 videos to base any conversation on. And lastly, I will say that this is a major project for downtown, and it would be a conditional zoning. And just so everybody knows what that means is that there will be a required neighborhood meeting ahead of technical review application. Then it goes to the technical review committee, downtown commission for the formal design review, and then planning to city council, and final stop is city council. If city council approves the project, then it goes back to technical review to make sure all the issues are being addressed, because these projects are usually very complicated. And with that, I will turn it over to the design team.
You're live. All right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for your time spent looking at our project. We appreciate everyone participating today and look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. We'll go ahead and start with the first image, which will be share it. Share it first. Yep. All right, can everyone see this rendering?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, all right, because we can't, from here, we can't see you, we can't see any faces, so I'm assuming everyone can see it and that you can hear me. This is a rendering of the project from the corner of North Market Street and Woodfin, facing where the Earth Fair store will be at the corner. What we've done in developing the design of the project over the last month was to start to refine the exterior skin of the building, the materials, the massing, proportions, and other items pertaining to the exterior design of the building that are part of your evaluation of the project. So what we've done is, because the project is so massive in size, is that we feel and continue to feel, and we believe you do as well, that the project needs to be broken up into mass elements that create a series of buildings within a building block. Even though it's a single building structure that's connected on all levels from one side to the other, we felt that it would not be appropriate to be a single material or a single color. So what you see here are essentially four major building elements that are tied together as a single building. What we're proposing here is to use a variety of different types of masonry and metal panels for the skin of the building, along with ephes and maybe some manufactured masonry mixed in it as well. We haven't fully determined yet what that will be. That will be discussed in detail in the next design committee meeting that we would like to schedule, which we hope would be the third and last one before our formal downtown commission meeting. What we've spent a lot of time working on since our last meeting was refining the building elements, particularly those facing Woodfin Street at the pedestrian level. Right now we have 3 retail spaces along Woodfin that are, one on the left end of the screen is the Earth Fair store. Next to it, moving east, is the lobby to the condominium building. Further over is the garage entry into the parking garage that has about 145 parking spaces, with one dedicated to every residential unit in the building. Then next to that is another retail space. The wall that looks blank is the exit stair, and then next to that, and rounding the corner on Central Avenue, is the third retail space. Behind the retail space, all along this facade, with the exception of the Earth Fair and the lobby, is the parking garage. And we feel that we need, because parking is so critical to the success of a project like this, we felt that we needed to maximize the amount of parking that we possibly can. In earlier schemes, we had more parking in the garage, but given the requirement of the retail space and being able to try to turn the corner and at least bring the open aspect of the pedestrian experience around the corner to Central Avenue, we feel that this is a reasonable solution to that requirement. We aren't able to bring retail all the way down Central Avenue, mainly because there's a fairly significant grade change that would make it very difficult to have handicap accessibility into a retail space. And the fact that we have exit stair, which is a code requirement for the parking garage at that corner. We're trying to keep the exit stairs as remote as possible. We can't move that stair because it would be too close to the one that's facing Woodfin that is required to exit out to the public right of way. So back to the renderings. Bear with us for a second. Now, in further refining the building elements here, you can see in comparison to the images presented last month, we've added more detailing into the banding at the floor lines, how the masonry works, the window openings, the balcony guardrails, those types of typical building elements in a multi-unit residential project. We've also put a lot of attention to how do we shield the parking garage and make it read like it's part of the storefront of the building on Woodfin. So what again, the retail space is only 1 story tall, but we've tried to integrate openings into the parking garage so that it reads in the model as taller retail space and not just an open parking garage that, where you would see the bumpers and fenders of cars. They'd be screened behind some type of translucent single weight glass. The retail spaces below are all glass facades with storefront, some type of aluminum framing, storefront framing to allow, obviously, for view into the space. We're looking here at using storefront, some type of metal panel, a lighter colored brick, and a darker color banding as a contrast to the brick coursing. To the left, where the building wraps the corner facing the off-ramp, we're introducing a darker, more traditional type of brick with another masonry type of banding at the ceiling line and floor line to try to break that up as well, along with a metal panel element that wraps the owner's clubhouse space on the roof and then wraps and continues on down to the street level by the entry lobby. So that becomes more of an integrated design element into the building, per Brian's comment last month, rather than something that just looks like it's stuck onto the top of the building as an addition. Note that per your suggestion, we have curved the outside corner of that panel as well to respond to the curve of the remaining portion of the building at that corner. Moving northwest, the next building element where we've, right there, yes, you'll see again at the corner where the Earth Fair store or kiosk will be, that's all open with, of course, visual access into the grocery store. We have widened the little outdoor plaza there for outside dining, for grab and go lunches and things like that. Further into the site, the next building element that is a sort of lighter brick material with a banding at the floor line. This is a further development of the residential part of the building. Probably use a different color storefront or window frame material in contrast in the windows, in contrast with the balcony doors. Somewhat of a different type of balcony guardrail to distinguish it from the guardrails on the other parts of the building. Down below, we're introducing some type of manufactured stone concrete product that simulates limestone that would be the base part of that building element. Now, functionally, within that space, where the storefront is the pre-function space for the ballroom for the existing hotel. So that'll be a new space that adds more overflow area for the ballroom. Currently, the restaurant that's there now will be converted into a larger space for meetings for the hotel guests that are staying in the existing hotel. Further to the left, there's a drop-off for the hotel that ties into the existing lobby behind the apartment block, which is the last building element to the left. That will be about a 54-unit apartment building that will have its own separate lobby, separate entrance from the back side of that building element that will also have access to the apartments. The rooftop restaurant that's above it will be clad in the same metal panel system that we're using for the club room. And that space is open to the public, and that will be accessed from the elevator in the hotel lobby. And then back around on the northeast side of the building, which you see there, that's the existing hotel. We're going to be developing, redesigning the exterior skin of the building, probably because of its existing structure and the minimum size of the footings. That structure will not support any type of heavy brick masonry, so we will probably introduce some type of ethos system to clad all the exposed sides of that building, the exposed sides of the existing kitchen and meeting rooms that are on the east side of the hotel, and then the inner wall of the building that sits on top of the existing structure. Again, there we have a problem of trying to keep all of this light because we're coming down through an existing building. We need to minimize the size of the footings and structure. So the one way to do that is to lighten the exterior cladding at that point. So that's why we're proposing to have ethos there since it's lighter weight. Moving to your left, that is the back side of the first building block. That will have the same lighter brick facade. Again, because that structure is coming down onto residual soil. The ramped element that you see there, that's a little roof covering over the driveway up to the upper level of the 5-level parking garage. So what you're seeing here is the further refinement of the project based on the feedback that we received from you last month and further design development work that we've done at MHA Works to incorporate those elements and ideas into the project, but also to refine and detail the interior floor plans of the building, the different condominium unit types, the apartment unit types, the restaurant, and the public spaces as well. Those plans had to be developed in order to respond or to modify the exterior skin of the building so that the function of the interior spaces are reflected on the exterior skin of the building. That's where we are right now. As I mentioned earlier, this is the second of what we anticipate being 3 meetings with you, with your committee. And we'd like to open it up for questions and feedback from you.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Robin, you got your hand up.
Hey guys, this is coming along nicely. I just have 3 comments / suggestions. I really like the storefront at Woodfin. I like the rhythm of the storefront along Woodfin where the parking garage is. That feels good. And I was wondering if that particular section, if it could look more vertical. You've got this horizontal banding that wraps pretty much around the whole building, which even though the building is tall, makes it read horizontal. And then it kind of ties it all together, even though the goal is to try to get it to be different buildings. I feel like that horizontal banding shows that it's all the same floor line and it kind of ties it together. So I was just thinking the vertical elements on Woodfin, if maybe that whole section could read vertical instead of horizontal, I think it could help separate those 2 pieces from one another, the corner piece that's got the Earth Fair in it. And then this is just a comment of mine, like a pet peeve of mine. The brick on the corner building, it bothers me for some reason. I feel like the brick looks so heavy, and the fact that it's going to be floating, I don't know. I mean, I would consider maybe playing with a different material there, maybe something that you're going to wrap the existing building with. If it's going to be ethos or metal panel, maybe it could be fun because that is also a rounded shape and it feels modern, and maybe that could be an opportunity to introduce a different material to the front face of the building, which could also help with the separation. Actually, I just had 2 comments, so that's
Bob, so you would be, I know that ethos is always an issue because of its technical problems and
Right.
really the installation problems that we've seen in downtown before. We're going to specify this, again, not to get too deep into the weeds, but we're going to specify extruded polystyrene rather than expanded polystyrene. So we don't have the snowstorms floating around. Yeah, I mean, there's no restriction on ethos other than that it's installed in a way that doesn't blow out over beyond the site. Yeah, maybe something we could look at, or metal panels or something, but we'll look at that.
okay.
We'll look at that for sure.
Okay.
Stephen Lee, if I could just interject really quickly, there is one UDO prohibition about ethos, and that is that it cannot be used on ground floors. So just so we all
Right.
know.
Yeah, Sasha, it would only start at the second floor on up. We wouldn't, regardless of what that material ends up being, we would have storefront and some type of masonry at the ground floor level. The ethos would be destroyed within a year anyway if it were that close to pedestrian activity. So yes, we're fine with that.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Let's see, are there any more comments from the committee members? Okay, Brian?
Echo Robin. I won't piggyback off of, or I won't try to repeat what she said. So I like in the current image, I like how you're starting to really play with some of the like you've got positive and negative forms going on. So in the internal block, it's kind of a block with hollowed out, and on the others, everything is kind of additive. I hope you're able to pull off the balconies that I see in the current image with the exposed side rails. That's kind of fun. So one of the images that you had shown us last time. So I guess one of my things is I'm going to get real nitpicky, and then I'll broaden out. So because it kind of corresponds. When I enter the site right now, you've got this really fun curved building that's floating on a glass plinth. I'm ignoring the columns because that's just still how it feels. But as soon as I pull in, I'm looking at a blank wall with a little door in it. And so like, I feel like where this corner building, yeah, right there. So I felt in that weird, I'm sorry, that white stripe that's going up that corner's not done on that building. I don't know what to do there, but it's just, I wanted to point that out. One thing in some of the images that you'd shown us last week, or last month, whenever that was, all of these, so I'm looking at 4 buildings right now that have, they're different, but they share some language and things, but they are all, at least the way I'm reading them, they are all horizontally, they have a strong horizontality to it. And in some of the images you had shown us, there was at least one of the buildings or so that looked like it was arranged more vertically, in that the vertical arrangement. And if there was a place to do that, I like the woodfin 2 pieces. I would leave them alone. And I really like the block for the main hotel with that entry. I don't think I'd mess with that. I like that a lot. That building right there, that with the pre-function space below, feels like if you did a building, so maybe you take that little thin band that's calling out your storyline, and you get rid of that, and you do something that really accentuates the verticality of that piece so that it feels different in between these 2 other really horizontally organized pieces. I think that would strengthen what you're doing in terms of separating the building, and it would also call this one out as a different function in a way that might actually help you organize that corner. That's going to be a really prominent corner when you enter the site. And I just wanted to echo, Rob, you guys have taken this to the next level. Thank you. It's really coming along.
Brian, we're all shaking our heads yes here about that comment. They introduced some verticality into it. We've been studying that over the last month, and we haven't really come up with a vertical version that is ready to show yet, but we've been studying that. So now that we know that it seems to be or is a topic of discussion, we'll look at that. I think you're right. I think it'll help tie the work of that corner, the face of the short wall of that building, with the vertical stripe. The vertical stripe is intended to be a placeholder for some type of signage. But if that's vertical, it doesn't want to be by itself as the only vertical element. It needs to have other vertical elements within that same block to pull it off. So we'll certainly go back and look at that. That'd be good. And I think we here need to look at the connection between the residential part of the building and the pre-function space part of the building. That still needs to be resolved. As far as the balconies are concerned, we are intending, and we think that in the long run, it'll be better to have the entire structure of the building be cast in place concrete rather than a hybrid system of steel and concrete or anything like that. I think this will be a more cost-effective way to do it. And in doing that, we'll be able to cantilever some fairly nice balconies. Now, they're larger or deeper on this side because we have the land area below. On the Woodfin side, they're going to be smaller because we're bumping up against the property line. So we can't obviously be out over the property line. So that's why the balconies are all going to read a little bit different on each building block, which I think is good. It just gives a little bit more variety.
And Brian, the door that you're seeing at that little face is our exit stair. It's our egress for the earth bear as well as for a couple 3 levels of the condo. So it's a 2-hour rated shaft that we need to figure out how to highlight.
Yeah, it's right there when you pull in, and I'm kind of digging the balconies, but they may change when you try to take this vertical, and I don't know what that's going to look like, but good luck with it. One comment on that one. So I don't mind the way the other buildings have a defined edge for the top of it. You've got this really thin line that carries out that storyline, and I like that for these, like in the image that I'm looking at right now, those the right and left hand block. I'm thinking that something else can happen if you make this one vertical, where maybe it's not a single line. Maybe there's some different something's going on with that parapet that really carries. So maybe it's not a straight horizontal. Maybe some pieces are a little higher than the others to really accent those vertical pieces that you're going to set up. And that can be part of your organizational scheme, because otherwise it's still going to feel like a gestalt block that sits on a plinth that has a horizontal top to it. Is that making any sense? So you've got enough going on with the 2 roof structures on each side of it that both define the top, but then it extends it. And I think this one needs something like that as well.
Okay.
I had that same thought, Brian, and I was thinking that there are enough buildings across the street that kind of relate to this in color and form that maybe even pulling in a little bit of a historical element on one of them can help separate it from the very modern feel of that corner building.
Okay.
I'm also appreciating the little subtle window mullion designs in this block, and I think they even you had a similar kind of pattern ratios of the wide with the narrow with the it's not quite a golden, but it's playing at it on a couple of the other buildings. So yeah, just keep playing with it, guys. I like that. Also, thank you for the little nods on how the buildings come together, and you've got some little reveals there where the different pieces join. I think that works well. Can you flip around to the other corner of the parking deck piece, that piece right there? Yeah. So I think you guys have done I appreciate, like Robin said, those pieces. It's this piece with the white vertical stripes here right on the corner. What am I looking at in function? What is that? I see the kind of the pedestrian entry, but I don't know what's beside it.
That's cross ventilation for the parking garage. Right?
That's
Yeah, I think it's something like on Central Avenue, yeah. I'm gonna go for the battery.
Yeah, technical problem here. The battery died on our mouse. So.
Let's see, while y'all are getting that,
oh, go ahead, Stephen Lee, I'm sorry.
while y'all are getting that put in there, just a couple of notes and thoughts for your site team. I know that we'll probably see a little bit more refined in your next presentation, but I'm sure y'all are aware that Central Avenue is actually an even more used pedestrian thoroughfare for residents in Asheville, in Midtown and North Asheville to get into downtown. So I think that the streetscape treatment here, I'm going to assume you're going to maintain basically the same type of on-street parking on Central, and then maintain no on-street parking on Woodfin. So
one thing. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, and I think that with the retail that's along Woodfin and the number of residents here and the amount of even more foot traffic through that area, I think that a simple approach to how these street trees are done, since there's no parking on Woodfin, rather than doing just tree grate, and solid concrete, possibly doing a continuous paver band underneath those trees, and with some silva-cell systems of some sort, some kind of structured soil or silva-cell system that's on the City of Asheville standard details. Doing something other than just standard tree grates, again, because there's no parking on that street. It not necessarily a planting strip underneath those trees, but maybe a paver band that can greatly increase the health and viability of those street trees. It's going to be a hot condition right there, facing south with masonry on that south face, and I think that there's a great opportunity for that right there. One question I had, and again, this is something that's probably not been talked about yet, but I was going to ask Sasha, and the streets division is probably going to bring this up too, but this is still considered the downtown core and downtown. I wonder if granite curb is going to be requested along Woodfin.
That's
going to be
a great question.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that. They do usually request it in the core. I think we would want to look at the surrounding conditions too. And
yeah,
I'm trying to think. I use this corridor a lot, so I'm trying to think what is there. I don't.
It's all concrete, curb and gutter, just kind of standard DOT. But that's just something to think about, Peter and team.
Yeah, that's a good point. This is Warren. Hey, thanks, Stephen Lee. That's a good point. And when we went to the pre-app, obviously that didn't come up, but it is a great question. I think we would definitely look to Public Works and Transportation to help us resolve that. I will give just a mini update. We have had we've had 2 conversations with Ken now and scoping out sort of the TIA side of things, which I know isn't directly related to this downtown review, but did want to tell you that was your discussion along Woodfin. It seems exactly right. That's, they obviously are not looking to add parking along that frontage. They're looking for it to be pedestrian in nature and just trying to have traffic that can go through there, but not any added traffic calming, if you will, by putting parking there. So definitely your civil cell discussion or something along those lines will be certainly taken into account.
Okay. Last thing I wanted to add was I'm glad that, I guess the only good thing that comes out of these online video meetings is that it is actually video, and there's a lot of opportunity for people that can't attend the meetings to see this. But as I think Robin and Brian had mentioned, Peter and team, we appreciate this staged approach that y'all are providing, and I'm glad that everyone is going to get to see a video of how this needs to take place, especially large projects with a lot of interest, public interest. But the initial sketch format that we saw, the second presentation where things are getting tightened up, comments incorporated, and then a third presentation. So for all you developers that eventually watch this video in teams, this is how we need to see it, and we need to have it done. So there are no surprises when there are a lot of objections to some major issues. So I just wanted to throw that in. Brian?
Just while we're looking at this corner, for the next one, I'm really going to want to see how you're developing not just this corner, but how it develops that really currently blank wall of the existing building and how all that ties together. It's just obviously, you guys know this, it's a major, I don't want to get that. I don't know if it is designated as a major pedestrian thoroughfare, but it is. There's a lot of pedestrians that use it. I'm going to get my definitions correct. But and is that a green roof? And is it going to have some kind of guard around it? And anyway, I'd like to see all of that kind of incorporated and shown at some point, because it's obviously pretty critical. Thank you.
Yeah, to answer that question, Brian, one of the things we're waiting on is a determination on what the mechanical systems will be for the building and what will be required to be on roofs and where that will be. The green roof at this level, in this position, is a placeholder. So and we know we have to deal with stormwater runoff, and the green roof can't be the only thing that mitigates that. So we'll know more about what that looks like in the future. The discussion on Woodfin that I think we all need to talk about it. This is more of a zoning regulation issue that sort of needs to match up with the reality of retail. If the city is asking and requiring in a zoning ordinance in a project of this type that retail be at the street level, along a pedestrian way, we need to acknowledge the fact that the retail is going to be dependent on on-street parking for some of their customers, whether it's drop-off, pickup, quick errand, that sort of thing. So I think as we begin to refine the sidewalk and the fact that our property line is so far back from the required width of the sidewalk, even if it were a hotel project, that I think we should really look at the possibility of some type of parking along Woodfin to help these retail spaces. Because Earth Fair, I think there'll either be people in the building that shop there or people who can drive around and park in the parking lot. People coming to these two stores or retail spaces may not know or be able to go around and park in the hotel lot. It would help them more if there was at least one or two spaces dedicated to each of those retail spaces for just short-term parking, pickup, delivery, that sort of thing. So we don't have a solution for that at all right now, but I think it's something that needs to be considered.
And Peter, this is Stephen Lee again. I'd like to speak very strongly in support of that. There are a lot of kind of new, improved crosswalk opportunities along Woodfin, but you were, as a pedestrian, attempting to cross a 4-lane street there in many situations, and the on-street parking works really well on both sides as you get close to the YMCA just across the block. And to me,
Right.
that serves as a really good model. Anything that can be done to encourage more viable retail right there, I think would be great. And this is, I'm assuming Woodfin's kind of an urban renewal street anyway, so it's incredibly wide, just like Central.
It is.
And I think that you've got some really great opportunities there to provide more parking downtown. And I think it'd be great to explore.
Well, one thing we've initiated is a parking study that's required by TRC. So that study will determine or provide a lot of information about actual traffic flow through there, whether the parking can be accommodated or not. So we're going to rely on what that study tells us. But I think as the city looks at their zoning ordinances, I think wherever retail is required at the street level, there needs to be some type of accommodation for some level of parking that would support that retail, because it's just very hard to lease small retail space without parking. And I know from personal experience and from talking to other property owners as well, that it's just very, very, very hard to lease that space. And the last thing you want is to have a retail space with paper up on the windows. You might as well have a parking garage there. So just something for us to consider.
I would also support the extension of the streetscape that's in front of the YMCA on Woodfin on down this part of the block. I think that would as a designer, I think that would make sense. And you have some parking along Central as well, at least up to
Right.
a certain point. And again, you have it just right on the other side of the intersection from Central, going from the YMCA down to First Baptist. So yeah, I would support that.
Okay. Any further comment from the committee members? Okay. Let's see. Oh, go ahead, Robin or Sasha.
Sorry, I was just going to say, if the committee's done, I think staff has some questions, and I don't know if Shannon, you want to step in here. I will just, while Shannon maybe comes on, I will say that I just want for everybody to know we did get one public comment for this meeting, and I'll read it, and maybe Peter could respond.
Okay.
Let me find it. Here it is. Okay. With limited parking around the Y and Renaissance Hotel, how will parking be managed if the large complex is built? I know that parking will be provided for the residential portion, but how many transient parking spaces will be available for Earth Fair and the 2 retail spaces? And I know this is partly what we were just talking about. With the Y next door, how will you prevent parking by members of the Y or public parking by large gatherings at the Renaissance Hotel? And so this is not strictly a design review question, but since it was submitted and we have some time and it's going to come up, might as well answer it now, and it can play into the design. Thanks.
Okay, I can respond to that question or that comment. For review, all of the residential units will have at least one structured parking space within the parking garage portion of the building. The on-grade parking that's existing now exceeds the requirements for the hotel. And well, we don't have an exact count yet of the total number of spaces on the site, because we're still trying to work out some grading issues related to the entry to the apartment portion of the building. Yes, we recognize that there is a need for parking downtown, but we feel we will have enough parking on our site to accommodate all of the uses for our site. We never contemplated building additional parking that could be leased out, although we have discussed that internally. So it may be something we could look at, but where we are right now, we are fully accommodating the parking requirements that we have for the entire complex.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Is there staff that have any comments?
I just wanted to state that, like, the staff, we also agree with the committee members that Central is kind of under recognized in this plan. It is possibly the most heavily traveled pedestrian bike route between North Asheville and the downtown, because it allows you to cross 240 without, avoiding Merriman and Charlotte Street where there's a lot of traffic. So we do think that's a really important street, and how the existing blank facade on that Central Street side is addressed, we think is really important, and it's going to come up. So I both at the Downtown Commission as well as part of the CZ. So it's I think better to get that figured out on the front end. And then I had a question, Peter. It looks like you're addressing the street wall step back requirement on the ends, on the sides.
Yep.
Okay. And then just a comment, you mentioned the parking for the ground level uses. Of course, that's just for the only requirement, we don't really require retail per se, right? We require that a parking structure have a habitable liner, but it doesn't necessarily have to be retail. So, but I understand your point that that's probably one of the more likely occupants of spaces like that. So, but I just wanted to make that clarification. So.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. Any additional staff or developer comment?
Excuse me, this is David. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sash.
Oh, sorry, David. I forgot you were here.
That's all right.
Just really quickly, I did get a comment that was kind of late, and so it's officially not entered, and I don't really know what to do about that situation. But I will say that we've addressed a few of the points in that comment already, that there will be a traffic study. And I had, one of the questions was about, and I think I asked this in the last meeting, but just since this is an evolving project and people will follow these, and this question will inevitably come up again. The question was, could you not consider moving some of the mass to the east part of the site? This particular person would prefer if the entire site was below 75 feet and spread out the mass over the whole site. And so maybe you could talk about that again. And then a separate question is, I just wanted to confirm the heights haven't changed from the last meeting, right? I mean, I think it's just more clear now with the more detailed design, what the height is.
Yeah, the only thing that this part of the building that we're looking at right now hasn't changed. The side or the end closest to the highway where the restaurant is, we've been playing around with the height of that. So, but the major portion of the building, its height has not changed. One thing to keep in mind, looking at this in the overall three-dimensional landscape, this is downhill from downtown. So it's significant grade change from Pack Square down to this site. And if you look at it, it looks like, and I'm not sure, although I know DOT did this in the past, that anywhere where a highway was being built where it needed fill to elevate a highway, they would buy the adjoining property, dig out that land, and use the soil to build up the grade. So you look at where the dip at Central Avenue and where it drops down on the backside of the parking lot, it's significantly lower than the middle part of downtown. So while it looks tall here, I think in context, it fits well relative to the other taller buildings in this part of downtown. As far as spreading this development out over the entire site, that was considered early on, but for residential, what we really wanted to be, I think, is towards the Woodfin side of the project and not towards the 240 side of the project. In theory, we could shorten the entire building and wrap the existing hotel and have some of the structure facing the highway, but it would be very undesirable space to live in. So that's why we've pushed everything to this corner to try to create an urban building wall along Woodfin that further reinforces the idea of development in downtown of higher density projects that face the street, that have a setback for sidewalks and that sort of thing. So that drove the design of the project and why it is located where it is right now. And I hope that answers that last minute question.
I think so. And I do, as you're talking, I'm recalling that, but this came up earlier as well, that I think part of that comment was also, can Woodfin not be activated more? Central, excuse me. But so just so you know, people are looking at that.
Yeah, Sasha and everyone on the call, we understand the issue along Central Avenue. That will be the next thing we look into. We need to have some discussions with the owner, of course, first to sort of talk through some ideas. But when we come back next time, we will have addressed that concern because I think we all understand the issue. So it's one of those things we'll need to refine over the next several weeks and have prepared for the next meeting.
Thanks. I'll let David ask his question, Stephen, if that's all right.
Okay, go ahead, David.
Dave Hazard with the city. Sorry, my camera's not cooperating right now, but really I just wanted to echo the same comment about Central, about the streetscaping and being a pedestrian main corridor, which just sounds like you get that, Peter. But one detail, there may be an opportunity to put a bulb out on, I guess it would be the western side of Central Avenue to shorten that crosswalk distance at the end of those parking stalls. And again, just to really try to look at that streetscaping and how that functions from pedestrian scale along with the building facades on that side. And then just a general comment in regards to pedestrian access to the building and ADA. Obviously, we've been having a number of issues with that do affect our streetscapes. So just to pay close attention to how ADA functions into your building with your finished floor elevations. And I know this is well beyond probably where you are now. Things like driveway entrances, curb cuts, how do they interact with that pedestrian realm and the streetscape features, and just to pay attention to those elements as you refine the design. And just a general comment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further staff comment or comments, questions from the committee? Okay, without seeing any, for those of you that may be new to listening and with the downtown, the design review committee, we do not vote on projects. Our goal is to simply engage in a collaborative dialogue with developers and designers to make projects better. So I think we've heard from the public comment that was available. So I believe we're now ready to adjourn unless there are any objections. Okay, without objections, thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Design team. All right, good day everybody. We're adjourned.
Take care. Thank you.